Welcome back to another episode of Cursed Convos. It's your boy Sick with your boy.
Little Chips, what's good?
And this time around it's gonna be Little Chip's turn to read, so I'm gonna let him take the wheel. Go ahead and explain what we got here. Go ahead.
So, in today's story, we have The Boy in the Window, written by
Yeah.
Jilani. If I botched that, I am sorry. Alright, so let's jump into it. She tried pulling herself back, but however hard she pushed, she could not stop. Her feet dragging her towards the open window, she dug her heels into the wooden floor, feeling splinters coming off it as her feet dragged her onward. Her hands caught the windowsill, and the wind blew in her face, causing her hair to whip around. Her eyes widened with helplessness and terror, taking in the navy blue sky with its sad gray moon and uneven sprinkling of stars. She couldn't move her head, but she turned her pleading eyes to him as he stood beside her. "Please!" The word caught in her throat, her voice choked with fear. He looked back intently into her eyes, that smile fixed on his lips as he tied the thick rope around the window ledge. It all started 3 weeks ago. She had woken up to a sudden tapping at her window. Ignoring it, thinking it was the wind playing tricks, she went back to sleep. The light tapping at the window became deliberate knocking the next night. She sat shivering with fright in her bed, unable to move until the knocking ceased. However, the next morning, she was sure that she had been imagining things. Her room was on the third floor with no trees or drain pipes outside to provide access to any unwelcome intruders. It wasn't knocking anyway, she convinced herself. It must have been one of those many mysterious sounds the night weaves into its lullaby. 2 days passed as she was sculpting downstairs in her studio. She heard the knocking again. For a second, she froze with fright. Then she turned. Outside the window, hanging upside down, was a little boy. Only his head was visible through the glass. His face extremely pale, his hair dark, long and dirty. He could have been a street urchin had it not been for his eyes. The eyes weren't human. They were round and slanted with impossibly large irises. He gave her a mischievous smile and tapped at the window again, still upside down.
Bro thinks he's Spider-Man. Like, the fuck? Alien ass Spider-Man.
For real, dude. "Please, lady," he said. "Won't you let me in?" She gasped and stumbled backwards, knocking her incomplete sculpture to the ground, throwing fleeks of clay everywhere. For the child spoke in the voice of a man, a husky, sadistic tone. He started visiting her more and more, often knocking at the doors and the windows. "No," she thought, "don't let him in. Whatever you do, don't let him in." She would see him peeking from her windows whenever she woke up, until she started keeping the curtains drawn at all times and the windows locked. She ignored the knocking that continued, followed by his voice. "Please, lady, won't you let me in?"
Let me in. I'm
Miss
not gonna
Lady,
hurt you.
I just want to touch you. Alright,
Wow.
anyways. She started getting paranoid. It was with great inner turmoil that she left the house for work every day. For the most part, things appeared normal. Until that particular day. That day, she was already feeling slightly sick due to the lack of sleep. Her coworker had suggested that she talk to someone, a therapist or a priest, maybe? Yes, she thought, I will today. Suddenly, someone knocked at her car window. She gasped. Her pupils dilated in horror. It was a cop. She had parked in front of a no parking sign. Swearing, she reared out, parked again, and rushed out to go to work. The cafe she worked at was a small glass walled haven for all kinds of people, readers, lovers, and businessmen who wanted a cup of tea or coffee before they bustled back to their offices. It was an hour before she would get off. She was serving a table by a huge glass wall when a whisper reached her ears. "Hey lady," it said, Abruptly, she looked up at the window, and there he stood, right in the middle of the road, with his black, slanted eyes and wicked smile. Without thinking, she rushed out to the sidewalk, and he was still there, right in the middle of the busy road with the traffic whizzing past him. I said please, didn't I? The boy whispered. I am a good boy, lady, came the man's voice from the little boy's throat. I said please. He stood 12 feet away, and still his voice sounded in her ears above the noise of the traffic as clearly as if he was inside her own head. And then a bus sped over him, just like that, passed right over the spot where he was standing. She screamed and ran right into the traffic where he had been, but nothing was there. She went down on her knees on the hard, gray road. A few passerbys stopped to try and calm her as she sobbed. It took her a while to get back to her senses. She got into her car and sped off towards home as fast as she could. She rushed straight upstairs, right into her bathroom, and splashed herself with cold water. She looked at her face in the mirror, skull-like and gaunt now. What have you done to yourself? She asked. You're going insane, she thought. Don't let this happen. Don't lose your mind. She dried her face and turned into the bedroom. She was just inside the room when she stopped in her tracks. There he was, sitting at the window ledge, his short, skinny legs dangling inside. You left the window open, the husky voice purred. And then he walked to her side, took her hand in his tiny cold one, and started pulling her towards the window with such surprising strength. Though she struggled, she couldn't fight him off. She watched him tying the rope to the ledge at one end and the other into a noose. Please, she managed to croak out. I said please too. The sadistic voice crooned as he lovingly placed the noose around her neck. She felt her feet climb the window ledge, and then she was standing on it. I am a good boy, the voice whispered in her ear. She felt his cold breath and putrid smell, the smell of death. They would find a note in her room in her own handwriting explaining how she was committing suicide because she was sick of life. She felt the hard ledge under feet, the moonlight on her face, and the wind in her hair. The last thing she would ever feel. A shadow fell from the third-floor window of the house that night, and a voice snickered. I'm a good boy, lady.
Holy shit. So this little boy, okay, yeah, it's either A, he makes everyone else goes through that because he went through that, or B, what if he needs to do that in order to like say pass on from that afterlife?
Alright, so I'm gonna counteract your statement there. You're not wrong, but this is what I kind of took from it. Because, in the beginning, when she first saw him, he said, like, won't you please let me in? So, like, her saying please, like, oh, don't let me unalive myself. That's kind of what he's implying, like, oh, I said please, like, let me in, And so that's kind of what he kind of threw back at her, like, oh, I said please too, you know?
Oh, kind of like a give back. Like, oh, you didn't do this for me, so why should I do this for you?
Yeah, exactly. Now, that's just the first one. Now, I kind of agree with the second one you said of, like, what if he has to get someone to do it in order to, like, pass on in a way? Wait,
Yeah.
wait. Honestly, your point might not. Well, okay. Well, this is different because obviously, right here, can't highlight it, but she did unalive herself, not by choice. But then it's still like it still seems like he stuck around, because he said, "I'm a good boy, lady," So
I...
what if the only way for him, like people he takes the life of, like they go on, but he still has to stay until he finally gets like let in, you know? Like by I guess by like will, like somebody being nice and letting him in. I've seen some stuff about like some ghosts not being able to pass on and they're being like anchored to a certain area, some being not be able to leave the house. So until like a certain scenario happens. Like let's say for instance, she did let him in, you know? Like he probably would have passed on, you know? And that would have been like his releasing thing to make him go up.
So you're saying like, but since she said no, he
Yeah,
killed
pretty
her out of
much.
spite.
Well, I mean, that's pretty. What if that's just his nature, though? Because, like, I mean, there is like some sayings about it, like spirits who can't pass on, and they're just in like the realm of like nothingness.
Oh,
They eventually go crazy. You know, like he might have been like an innocent boy, but you know who knows how long he's been stuck here. So, you
to
know,
where it just turned him into a monster. It's like,
yeah, you know,
fuck
like
it.
just being stuck in the veil, like you can't go up or down, so you just eventually lose your shit. So that's
Dead ass.
I mean, he says right here too, "I'm a good boy, ladies." So it's like, you know, is he implying something? Yeah, it's fucked up. It's a fucked up line to say to someone, but you know,
I don't know. Yeah, but like, I mean, snickering, saying that, like, I'm a good boy. After
yeah,
making someone do that, like, holy, that's not something a good boy would do.
yeah,
Uh,
shit. I just say burn the damn house down. Why don't you?
yeah, shit's cursed.
Yep, that's the end of the story. Credit goes to H. Jilani.
Great story. Great story.
Indeed.
I'll give it like a good 7.8.
Okay, yeah, I was about to say like 7.5 stars. Pretty good. It's a pretty good story.
Yeah, it's
Pretty
pretty
short
good.
story.
If you'd like to see more, you know what to do. Subscribe, like, comment, the Holy Trinity. Let us know what you want us to read. And
If you
thanks
have
for
any
listening. It's been something sick here.
with your boy Little Chips.
And we'll see you on the next one. Peace.
Later, losers. No, just cut that out. Cut that